The views expressed on this program are those of the producers and individuals appearing on this program and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Sun Prairie Media Center staff, its video service providers, or the staff and elected officials of the City of Sun Prairie.
Hello and welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jameson Rabbit, and the man seated next to me this week, well, he's got pajamas entirely made of denim. His name is Mike Roth.
It's really not that odd.
No?
No, it's a onesie. It's kind of like, what was it, Fonzie's friend that was a mechanic?
I know Potsy. You Chachi?
Chachi.
Sure.
It was like, just big old denim onesie.
Just climb into that?
It's very comfortable. It's durable. I've had this for about 30 years.
Nice.
I've had to let it out with some Velcro straps.
They say you don't wash denim though, so that's something. That's what I've read. You're not supposed to wash your denim.
No, I wash it.
Okay.
It does get a little funk after a while. I mean, you think about it. You're sleeping in it every day.
So, tune into our social media if you want to get a picture of Mike in his denim onesie. Looking forward to that. Sir, we're not here to talk about denim onesies. We're here to talk about movies. And I'm going to get us started on our streaming spotlight this week with a film that I had perchance to watch. It's a film called The White Tiger, found on, I believe it's on Netflix, from director Ramin Barani. It is a film that is set in India amongst its strict traditions and even stricter social structure. There's a poor young man named Balram. Balram is played by Ardash Gurav. Balram is from a small town outside the rich city, and he sets out to do something bold. He's going to do something almost unheard of. He's going to get his driver's license so that he can serve as a driver and servant for a rich man in the city. How crazy. This movie is all told in a flashback from his point of view at the end of the film. And it's a story of how Balram has to do some ruthless things to move out of his social place. He is very much, there's the haves and the have-nots in India. There's two different Indias, as they say. And it's this kind of dark comedy showing the real difference between these two Indias. He works for this American-taught, very wealthy Indian couple, Ashok and Pinky, played by Rajkumar Rao and Priyanka Chopra. And they seem to have it all. And for a minute, you think they might be different from everyone else he deals with because they are Americanized and they kind of treat him a little differently than everyone else seems to. And it seems like it might be a tale of his master and his wife kind of taking care of him. And that's how he'll eventually find his success. But there's a betrayal, and Balram realizes that he will forever be seen as merely a poorly educated servant unless he does something drastic. And his master, Ashok, kind of uses him as an example of how the poor people of India can be exploited for financial gain through various means. And it's an interesting film, kind of hitting on some similar films as Parasite a couple years ago as far as class structure and how it's very set in a lot of cultures. Only it's kind of not told with the subtlety and patience that Parasite was.
Yeah.
But I kind of found myself really unsure of how to feel about everything as it transpired. Like, I thought for a while that I knew what was going to happen, where this trajectory was going. I'm not sure I was 100% happy with how things turned out. It showed, though, that this darkness that can come out in people when their place in society is threatened, and what people are capable of.
So I take it this movie did it end on a happy note? Because that's pretty common for movies made in India, is end it on a happy note.
I guess it depends on how you feel about Balram.
Okay.
Like if you see him as a sympathetic character, because for a large majority of the movie, he is the sympathetic character.
Yeah.
But there's some moments in here where I kind of had struggled with how I felt about him as a character.
Okay.
So that kind of would determine whether it's a happy ending for him or not. Like if you want him to get happiness.
Yeah.
Because there's some weird things that happen in here. But it's an interesting movie. I like it. He was really good. And Priyanka Chopra, I always like her when she's in things, and it was interesting. So it was better than I expected, and I ended up giving The White Tiger 3.5 out of 5 stars.
Very cool.
And it's half in English, half in Indian.
Well, that's what
Chops back
subtitles
and
are
forth.
for.
That's exactly right, sir. That's it. Let's move on to what you have for us.
I have Sightless, directed by Cooper Carl, starring Madeline Petch as Ellen. Ellen is a young woman who she's attacked, and after the attack, she doesn't have any sight. She goes to kind of a rehab system where they get her a hotel, or not a hotel, but a room where her caregiver, Clayton, played by Alexander Kosh, he takes care of her, tries to get her used to a drastic change in her life. What I liked about this film is you see it through how she believes the world outside is portrayed. So things will change as she gets more information. In the trailer, there's a bird, and she immediately thinks it's a yellow bird, but once she finds out it's blue, it turns blue. Is it really blue? Is it really yellow?
Right.
We don't really know. This is just entirely through her perception.
Yep.
As this movie goes along, there's some twists and turns and things that you believed in the beginning, because that's what she believes, that changes, and I like that. It was interesting to that point. The acting, really not that fantastic.
Yeah.
And once you get what's going on, you figure where it's going to end. But I still enjoyed that everything that we saw was just through her eyes, essentially, which she doesn't have. So as it progressed and things started getting a little darker, I kept on thinking, is this really what it is? And you never really fully know, but...
Yeah, I mean, there's, the whole premise of the movie, obviously, she's blind. She's the unreliable narrator. And you have things happening to her, one of her neighbors down the hall comes to her, she's been abused. The next neighbor comes, he's an abuser. She's kind of thrown off by all this, and she starts to kind of sense that things aren't necessarily what she thinks. One of the things that bothered me with this movie is they never addressed the fact or gave her the ability or anything of any of her other senses being heightened, losing her vision.
Yeah.
And that's like natural.
Well,
I could put you in a dark room for 10 minutes and your other senses would heighten. And that's never addressed in this movie.
well, they did say that her hearing was able to get better, but if her hearing was really as good as what we are told, probably some of the things that she would have believed really wouldn't have happened.
Right.
You would have been able to figure that one out. But
That's what I'm saying. It didn't come into play. And I think really early on, I started to really figure out a lot of these twists that were going to be coming, because they were kind of coming at intervals.
Yeah.
It felt like okay, and it felt like, I don't know. It felt to me like I'd seen better versions of this genre done multiple times. There was Wait Until Dark, which is a great version of this. See No Evil. Even Don't Breathe, where the movie a few years ago where the bad guy is blind.
Yeah.
The people break into his house.
I like that.
Like, that was an interesting take on this. This just felt like, I don't know.
I think the only thing that I felt was different was they really did hone in on, hey, this is perception that the audience perception is the same as what her perception is, and that could change as it goes. And there's really never a clear, this
I think
is exactly
it would
what
have
it's
been
about.
better with much better actors.
And that I totally
that was a
agree with.
real drawback to this.
It needed better acting, and it needed a little bit more believable premise to it. But besides that, I did enjoy watching this.
I felt like it was a good premise, and it didn't get fully fleshed out, and that the actors involved couldn't raise it above that.
No.
and they were just stuck with that.
Well, I have a feeling we have two different scores,
We
but we
might-
have the same kind of idea about this film.
Yeah. What did you end up giving Sightless?
I give it a barely 3. I did enjoy my time with this movie. But yeah, bad acting.
And that is part of the reason why I ended up giving it 2 stars. It didn't cut the mustard for this guy. Let's move on, sir. What else we have on the review this week? We have a film called The Ultimate Playlist of Noise from director Bennett Lasseter. Stars a young man named Marcus, who is played by Kean Johnson. Marcus makes these ultimate playlists of music for all occasions for other people. It's kind of something that he loves to do. He's a high school student. He's obsessed with music and very little else until one night he goes to see a band and becomes instantly transfixed and infatuated by this singer who is up on stage kind of opening for this band, just kind of doing a song, and he becomes mesmerized by this young lady. But before he's able to meet her, he suffers a seizure, and the doctors recommend drastic brain surgery, which will affect his auditory functions, rendering him deaf. This is tragic. So he decides to make an ultimate playlist of noise. There's the title right there. The kind of the ultimate list of his favorite sounds in the world. And he plans this road trip to hear and record all these various sounds before he's unable to ever hear them again. And his plan is to end in New York to hopefully find a recording that his brother made with his band before he died saving Marcus as a child. And that's kind of where it's all going to end, and it's going to be beautiful. Unfortunately, his parents, specifically his mother, very much against this and say no way. And so he steals the family van and heads out. Literally running into Wendy, the young lady that he saw on stage, played by Madeline Brewer, running into her with the van. She is running away from an abusive ex-boyfriend, and they decide to take off on this road trip, and they travel the country checking things off of his list. They learn about each other. They may or may not fall for each other a little bit, and he realizes that, you know what, he's never going to hear her sing again because he's going to go deaf soon. And he's dealing with a lot. There's some heartbreaking moments in here. And as sweet as it is, I think, and I think you root for Marcus in this movie, I felt like there was something missing in here that just, like, that had the beats that I was enjoying. There's something missing. It felt like they were trying to really capture, like, these movies from a few years back, like The Fault in Our Stars and things like this, these young adult romances. Part of it was, I think, his parents didn't feel believable to me at all. Like, he just took off, and they just, every time they show him, they're just sitting in bed like, boy, I hope he calls us.
Yeah.
He hasn't answered the phone in 2 weeks. I guess we won't call the authorities.
And kind of knew where he was going.
It's weird.
There could have been cops there. But, yeah, either way, there was something off about the acting in this, too. Kean Johnson, he plays Marcus. I noticed, and it started bugging me, and it shouldn't bug me. It's a minor thing, but he spoke most of his dialogue like at one time his jaw was wired, and he never really learned how to open it. And
Interesting.
and it kind of slurs a little bit, but you could hear everything, but he had a great smile, and he talked all the time, most of the time, through his teeth. Same thing with his parents. I feel like they were personable. I like them, but there was something off about how they delivered their dialogue. Felt maybe over-rehearsed. I don't know. I couldn't put my finger on it.
Yeah, and I kind of struggle. Like, there's something missing in here that I should be connecting to this more.
And there was something that was also really cool. They had this passion for giving out the sound, and you could tell the gaffers probably loved this.
Oh, yeah.
When you heard a lock, you heard the keys tumble.
Yeah.
Everything was pitch perfect, but it just didn't blend in with the rest of the film. I did enjoy this. I kind of pictured, there was I forget his first name. His last name was Lemax. He traveled the country recording American songs from deep south and rural areas. And I kind of get that feeling of that passion of finding this ultimate song that he could, or sound that he could express to the rest of America. And I thought that was really cool. But there was some offness, and I couldn't really put my finger on it because everything I'm saying feels pretty petty, but
Yeah,
it was off.
And that's where I struggled. Like, I'm sitting there and I got done with it and I was like, well, that was a nice story. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed a lot of what was going on. I thought their chemistry, he and Wendy, I thought their chemistry was good.
Yeah.
There was something in there that I didn't fully connect to the movie. I mean, as the parent in me, I know right away I was bothered. Like, well, his parents were like, hey, he said no. Uh-huh. He just had seizures. You know, if my kid like just had a seizure, he's gonna have to go have extreme brain surgery, and he takes off and he doesn't answer my phone calls for days on end. Yeah. I'm not just sitting in bed going, I hope he shows back up. Like, that's not going to be my move.
Yeah, you stole a car too, so run the plates. There would be an alert. I don't know if it would be Amber. He's an older kid.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
That didn't connect.
There's a part of me that also thinks, remember when Hobbit was 4K and they released it in the theater?
Yeah.
Now, the movie wasn't that great, but it felt so off because they did something so perfect. Maybe that's how it was with the auditory. Things were just too perfect and we're not used to it.
There's also, I'm curious what you thought there was a reveal about his brother, because he's dealing with a lot of trauma as a child of his brother's death. And that kind of rears its head in the final act of this movie. I mean, how did you have any thoughts on how that was delivered?
I felt that was overblown. Yeah. It felt he looked up to his brother, and what he thought his brother wasn't really what it was in his memory, and he had a complete meltdown where it went into suicidal tendencies and very self-destructive segment. It was very short, but it felt like it came out of nowhere for me. But he's a teenager, and he's going through a lot of stuff.
I kind of felt that way too with when he and Wendy had kind of a confrontation right around this same time of the movie, and they kind of had this blow apart. And I was like, wow, this all just feels so extreme. And yes, you're right, teenage emotions can be that way. But it felt like everything just was flipping a switch.
Yeah. I don't know. If I like this movie enough, I might critique it and really try to figure out what I liked about this and what I didn't like about it. But it wasn't that great.
Not willing to invest.
No, so I pretty much, my score is going to probably be like this forever because I'm not going to dwell on it.
Absolutely. What would that score be, sir?
It's 3. I did enjoy it, but not enough where I'm going to be thinking about this after the show that we're doing right now.
Totally fair. And I concur. I gave it 3 stars as well. I think it's good. It's good.
Yeah. Can't figure out why I disliked it.
Yeah.
Well, I should have liked it more, maybe.
I'm eating a jambalaya and I can't figure out something's off.
Yeah.
Did you miss the spice? Mm-hmm. What happened?
I forgot the dooley.
Sir, moving forward, it's time to look back we bring back our movie throwback segment. It's been a little while since we did one. And we're starting a new series for the next few weeks. And we are talking about music biopics. There's a ton of music biopics. I started searching around, making lists. Like, holy cow, it's a lot. We've done a few here on the show.
I had a hard time trying to remember all the biopics that I thought were good because in the past, we've watched some real stinkers. So in my head, I'm like, okay, La Bamba was good.
Yeah, we got some.
Yeah, we do. We got a bunch.
We got a few, and we're going to get started off in this week's, to kick it off. I mean, it kind of goes with the theme of this week's show. What are we talking about?
We're talking about Ray, directed by Taylor Hackford, starring Jamie Foxx as Ray Charles, one of our greatest performers we've ever had. And it goes through his life of going back and forth to his early childhood of why he has certain fears and how he lost his sight, all the way up to the rise of his career where he gets out there with his piano and finds his voice and makes friends and enemies, and his mistakes and his accomplishments. It's a great film. Makeup, horrible in this. We have Curtis Armstrong with a terrible skull cap.
Sure.
We all know and love him as Booger. Which bothered me for a long time. I'm like, I know him. Why can't... But I really enjoyed this film a lot. Jamie Foxx is a fantastic actor. I think he did a good job at kind of honing in on the style of Ray Charles.
He put a lot of time into this role and was rewarded with an Academy Award for Best Actor for this. But he put a lot of effort into this. He wore prosthetics over his eyes so that he was blind on set. He learned how to read Braille. He knew how to play piano already. He's already been a musician. But the only thing he really didn't do was he didn't sing. Despite him being a musician, they used Ray Charles's vocals that he
Really?
lip synced over. Yeah.
I thought occasionally it was him.
I think they may have done some blending of the two, but for the most part, it was Ray Charles's vocals that they put in there.
Okay.
And one of the things I enjoyed about this film is it's kind of an unflinching look at Ray Charles. It doesn't paint him as the angel.
No.
It shows all his faults. We have Regina King and Kerry Washington in here as his wife and his girlfriend. And we see his struggles with substance abuse and a lot of issues. But it also shows like how he was the guy who really brought gospel and R&B into this soul music that he became the champion of. And I really, really enjoy this movie. And it's one of the few, I'm not a huge Jamie Foxx guy. And this is one thing I really enjoy him in.
I actually think he's fantastic, and it's hard to believe that he could do something like this when the start where I saw him was in Living Color.
Oddly, he followed this movie up with Stealth, that horrible movie about being a stealth bomber pilot.
I didn't see
Like,
that
oh
one.
man, you win the award, and then your next movie is just this total tank job.
He must have been on contract or something.
Yeah, Ray, though, it's great. And it's nice that Ray Charles was able to see at least an early cut of this film because he passed away shortly before it was released.
Yeah, that's a shame. I'm curious, do you know what Ray Charles felt about it?
From what I had
technically,
read...
he didn't see it. I'm kidding. Terrible.
And, I mean, if you don't understand, that's why this is our first one for this week, because we got a show about people losing senses. So why not Ray? From what I read, he really enjoyed the portrayal of him and felt that it was true to him.
I just kind of figured really, this doesn't hold back and make him look like an angel, like a lot of biopics are. This is a real person, and I was wondering if he enjoyed seeing a real person portrayed. It exposes a lot.
Yeah, I think he understood that that's who he was, and because he did meet with Jamie Foxx a lot to kind of let him get a feel for who he was, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, you want it to be real, though, right? You don't want it to be fake.
No,
when they make the movie about Mike Roth, I'm making sure they have all the flaws in here. I'm bringing out the Wikipedia page. I'm like, all right, guys, we got this and this.
That's going to be a horrible movie.
It's going to be great.
No.
Find somebody to get that laugh down, though. That's going to be the trouble.
Yeah, I think
I mean, you can't wear prosthetics for that.
I think they'll just crank it to 11. Okay, giggle a little bit. We're cranking it to 11.
This laugh goes to 11. Anyways, that's Ray. That is part of our movie throwback segment for this week. With the future, we're going to be talking about other music biopics. I'm really excited for this. There's some really good ones out there.
Yeah, I had to order one, and
Yeah?
we won't be getting that one until mid-February.
You know, I have all of them that are on the list. I have them all sitting on my shelf.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to mention the one that's coming.
I can't wait to find out. Sir, let's take some time here to look ahead at some films that we have coming out the weekend of February 5th. The first one is a film called Bliss. This is a film starring Salma Hayek and Owen Wilson. It's described as being a bit of a strange love story, a surreal love story where the two of them meet and they begin to think that the world around them may be a computer simulation. Ooh. Kind of a romantic Matrix drama. I don't know, but it's got Owen Wilson and Salma Hayek.
You don't see Owen Wilson too much anymore.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you a little secret. I'm okay with that.
All right, cool.
Like if I just see him in Wes Anderson movies,
Yeah.
totally cool with that.
All right.
But we'll see. Hopefully Bliss is amazing, right? We also have a film called Space Sweepers. This is a South Korean sci-fi flick about a junk collector spaceship and its ragtag crew who discover this humanoid robot that's known to be a weapon of mass destruction, and they decide to get into a little bit of trouble with this robot.
Okay.
It looks interesting to me. Like,
It sounds like other movies.
I mean, it's like Firefly, and they discover a robot that is a weapon of mass destruction. I don't know. Interesting. South Korean sci-fi flicks have paid off the last couple of years,
Yes,
I think. So, we also have from Taiwan a film called Little Big Women, about a lady who on her 70th birthday finds out that her long-lost husband is dead, and there's another woman who was with him until the end, and thus the wake becomes a complicated affair. Reads as a bit of a dark comedy out of Taiwan. And then the one that I've been really looking forward to is a film called Malcolm and Marie from director Sam Levinson, stars Zendaya and John David Washington, about a filmmaker and his girlfriend whose relationship is tested after the premiere of his movie, and some things happen. And they kind of shot this during the pandemic on the sly, from what I was reading, but really interesting. And Zendaya has been working with Sam Levinson on their HBO series that I completely just drew a blank on, but Euphoria? Anyways, I like John David Washington a lot, and I'm interested in this movie.
I'm curious about movies that are made during the pandemic. I
Yeah?
really am. It's a lot of social distancing and not too much freedom to go anywhere or get
Small
things.
casts usually, too.
Very small cast, yeah. Now, we saw our first one last week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if Sightless was made during the pandemic. We're just staying in one room for the entire movie.
It's possible. There's really only
Just gonna
three.
keep all in this room together.
Yeah, there's only 3 actors.
Yeah.
I don't remember seeing anybody hugging.
No.
No.
I don't think there was much hugging in that movie. No. All right. So those are the movies that are going to be coming out the weekend of February 5th. Before we move forward, though, we have to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Marcus Theaters, the Palace here in Sun Prairie. I want to thank you for your continued support and sponsorship here. We do appreciate it. The lights are on at the Palace, and if you want to go check out any of the films, they've got a smorgasbord of movies, both classics, movies that have come out recently, all kinds of things. It's a wild mix of movies that are playing over there. You can go onto their app and check it out, and go see some movies and get yourself some popcorn. Why not? You know what I miss over there? The Cheeto popcorn, the flaming.
Yeah.
Cheeto popcorn.
Well, that was hard to get anyways.
It
Because you
was.
go in there and everybody loved it so much it's gone
Yeah.
that day.
Yeah.
I miss that stuff.
I had some the other day. I got some knockoff flaming cheese popcorn the other day,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, oh, I remember getting this in the theater. It was so good.
It's like crack.
Except for stained fingers in the dark theater was not good, because I would come out with like streaks on my shirt or my pants when I wipe my hands.
I always got like a different kind of popcorn too,
Yeah.
so I could, because it's a small quantity.
Yeah, a little 50-50.
And you just grab that and then you wipe your hands off on the other popcorn.
This guy,
Yep.
man, you are an innovator. I love it. Anyways, Marcus Theaters, thank you for sponsoring this here program. Michael, next week, we got a few movies we're going to be talking about. There's a film called The Little Things over on HBO Max and in theaters. That's the new Denzel. See, we got him and his kid with movies out in the next couple weeks.
Nice.
The new Denzel serial killer thriller with Rami Malek and Jared Leto. I'm very excited for that movie. We'll also have Finding Ohana over on Netflix. We'll have The Dig over on Netflix. And we'll be talking about another throwback movie. I'm excited to find out what we're talking about. I can't wait. It's going to be a music biopic of some sort.
Yep. It's The Imposter.
Oh, that movie.
That was so great. I can't see why I keep on referencing this movie.
Go back and find our episode on the Imposter from a few years ago, because it was the worst movie ever.
And I
it was
can't get rid of it.
It was a glorious experience of you and I getting to sit there and watch it together in an empty theater.
In an empty theater.
so
It was
good.
horrible.
It was really
And
good.
I cannot forget that. This was like 3-4
4 years ago, I guess.
had to
Yeah.
have been at the least.
Yeah, it was early.
It's still fresh in my mind.
Still burns.
It's a trauma.
Anyways, go check that out. Otherwise, check us out on social media. Real Reviews K-Sun or Real Reviews TV on Facebook and Instagram will get you there. But until next week, I'm Jameson.
I'm Mike Roth.
Thanks for watching.